Gouveia. Captain Gerry Gouveia has been appointed as a National Security Advisor to His Excellency, Dr. Irfan Ali, the President of the Cooperative Republic of Guyana, in August 2020. Captain Gouveia is a veteran airline transport-rated pilot with 40 years of service in the aviation, security, and tourism sectors in Guyana. He's a former military officer with an excess of a decade of service in the Guyana Defense Force, where he served as the chief pilot for the Army Air Corps. Welcome, gentlemen. Today we're actually not here to mourn the passing of somebody. We're here to celebrate the life of a very important person. Okay? So we're not going to be mourning anything today. If you notice from my dress, some of you are dressed up a little bit too much. But we wanted to have a Caribbean emphasis to this, okay? Make it light. Because this man was something else in a lot of the lives of folks in here today, but mostly mine. So I'm going to read you a couple of things first of all, and then we're going to get some other folks up here as well before we start the ceremony. The first one I'm going to read is from Captain Tony Manson-Hing, who's in Canada, couldn't make the trip because health issues. Dear Jenny, Tina, Roland, Roland Jr., Paula, Lisa, Peter, and the rest of the family. Barbara and I have sent our deep condolences to you, and all words that cannot express my sadness and feelings for my dear friend and mentor Roland, who will always be remembered and never forgotten. I'm regretfully sorry that I cannot be with you to celebrate Roland's send-off, but my thoughts and spirit will be with you as you hug and shed tears and laughter and party, which Roland will be missing. I consider Roland as a hero, not only to his country Guyana, but as his best friend and his wife Jenny, who religiously stood by his side in joys and difficult times. I will cherish having known Roland for many years, as far back as 1959, when I started work with Fiji Airways at the Wrangell ramp in Georgetown as a clerk, and he was a pilot. Flying with him for many years when I obtained my commercial pilot license in 1962 until I gained captain status in 1968. Roland's flying career has been well documented, and I need not repeat his accomplishments, but thank those individuals with special gratitude to Dave Rohee spearheading the recognition of Roland's accomplishments, resulting with the government of Guyana publishing a postal stamp hopefully later this year. It was gratifying to observe with tears in my eyes of the video with Dave reading the letter from President Dr. Ali and his reaction of acceptance in spite of his disability. Roland was not only an accomplished pilot, but loved to party, dance, and perform practical jokes. And what he did. He gave the impression, too, of being a cheapo, as the saying goes, and he used to collect empty bottles and cashing them in for supplemental cash at the drive-in cinema. And if you guys remember this.
Oh, yes.
He would take to his daughter, Paul and Lisa, who are both here today, to drive-in cinema and roam the site collecting bottles and then cash them in at the cafeteria. And purchase goodies for his daughters, so you dare not leave your bottles of beer unattended. Oh my God, sorry, my apologies. There's so many people wanting to talk to me today. If you threw an empty bottle into the air and it did not fall and crash, then you knew that Roland was snooping around. He loved his children and was very protective of them. When Tina started to meet up with Brian, a bouquet of roses arrived at the house and Roland immediately questioned Jenny about it. Jenny, in Tina's defense, quickly replied, "It was from a girlfriend." I will miss my chats with Roland, initially on the phone and then on Skype, and finally on WhatsApp, discussing many topics, including aviation, family, finances, and health issues, as we will be constantly checking each other on Google Trails information. It's always difficult to say goodbye when a loved one moves on, but I will miss my dear friend Roland. Farewell on your final flight, Roland. May God bless your soul and the souls of the faithfully departed, through the mercy of God. and rest in peace. I'm now going to read a little message from me, which will give you some information on my background with Roland. Jenny, I share your loss with you. Even though he left us in an untimely fashion, I forgive him and I hope you will as well. Today it's not about his passing, only to look back on his incredible life and his amazing accomplishments. A true Guyanese hero. Roland was the very essence of an outstanding human being, especially in the world of aviation. He has left giant footprints in the history of aviation in Guyana, never to be filled or equaled. Excuse me. How do I know this? Because I shared. Okay. All right. How's that? All right. How do I know this? Because I shared hundreds of flights and thousands of flying hours with Roland as his co-pilot. Unfortunately, there are many stories and adventures, but it would take days to recount even some of them. I spent years with this guy in the cockpit. Now I'll tell you how we met, because this is interesting. In the early 1960s, before some of you were actually born, I was working as an apprentice mechanic at British Guyana Airways, seaplane base, just outside the city at Rohee. This is where the Drum and Goose were kept at the time. One day, this tall, good-looking guy in a captain's uniform walked into the sheet metal bay where I was working. He said, "I need someone to throw out an anchor when I land at Toomerang in the Mazaruni." I immediately volunteered. After that first flight, Roland managed to get my boss, Harry Went, who's the general manager of British Guyana Airways, allowed me to fly as an anchor boy with Roland. I did this for many months and many flights in the interior of the country. Now these were running cargo flights, so no co-pilot was required. So I sat in the cockpit with Roland. There were many, many exciting times for an 18-year-old who dreams of becoming a pilot. On one of our flights, he said, "Take the controls and fly this bird." I went, "I can't fly an airplane." Roland said, "Hey, I can teach a monkey to fly, and you ain't no monkey." And that, folks, was the start of a great relationship and a great friendship. Roland and I parted journeys for a few years. He went on to become the chief pilot of the national airline. I went to Canada to get my commercial license. But before I left Guyana, Roland made me get my flights student permit, and actually was my first flight instructor at the Demerara Light Airplane Club, somewhere some people might remember. So I left for Canada to get my license, and when I returned, Roland was still flying with the airline, and I was now flying single-engine aircraft over the bush, okay, doing bush flying. We spoke on the radio many times. He encouraged me, he said, "You know something, guy, you're flying dangerous stuff in the bush. Why don't you come and fly for the airline?" Eventually I did. And from that point on, it appears that I became a favorite co-pilot and scheduled regularly to fly with Roland. This is by far the best experience I've ever had. I enjoy a fabulous career spanning well over 50 years, thanks to his guidance, training, and mentoring. And I will tell you, Roland was the best pilot I ever had the pleasure of flying with, ever. He had God-given talent for flying that nobody else I've ever seen. Anyway, I also, he'll be featured in my next book. Some of you know I write some books, so he'll be featured in my next book. He'll have a whole part of that. This great guy meant a lot to me, and I will miss him. Even though Roland was given the highest award for his bravery, courage, and leadership, he always dreamed of having a Guyana stamp in his image. Many of his friends and associates from several countries, as far away as Singapore, agreed that he deserved this accolade and a fitting tribute for a true Guyanese hero. Tina actually performed her magic and designed the image for the stamp, which is on that picture that was outside. And we are honored today to have with us too Gerry Gouveia, who was instrumental in getting the approval for this commemorative stamp from the President of the country. Gerry, on behalf of our Guyanese, thank you so much. Now we had hoped that Roland would be alive with us to see the stamp when it was finally issued. unfortunately, that's not going to happen. But the memory of this great Guyanese hero will live on through the commemorative stamp forever. Roland, my friend and mentor, from co-pilot to my captain, I wish you a peaceful journey, good tailwind, and your usual smooth landing at your final destination. Rest in peace, guys. I'm going to ask Gerry to say some words. Okay. And by the way, before Gerry.
Ladies and gentlemen. Chief of Staff, Johnny, children of Roland, Frankie, Peter, thank you all for having myself and the Chief of Staff here today. But I want to tell you that this was so very important for us as Guyanese, and particularly the President of Guyana, both the Chief of Staff and myself were on a state visit to the Dominican Republic. And the President mandated that we both travel here to bring the message we want to bring to the family and to lead the legacy of Roland in the words of the President, which I will read in a moment. But on a personal level, I just want to say that for me, I'm sorry to be here at a time like this, because the first time I actually met Roland, I didn't meet him. Jenny, brother, and myself were both selected from the Guyana National Service to go and to be trained as pilots. And we came out of Gouveia, and Frankie took me to the house in Bel Park. And as we got into the house, Roland was upstairs packing apparently, and he said that they were just about packing to go to Miami. And I have never traveled out of Guyana before that time. And this is back in, I believe, 1976 or 75, I don't remember the exact date, but I saw them fleetingly leaving the house. So I never really got to meet Roland. But both Jenny and him were packing these bags, and apparently they were going to be flying a private plane to Miami. And it really sparked my imagination of what being a pilot might be. And so for me, that was my first experience with him. There are many people in this room who knew him, interfaced with him on a daily basis. I met Peter many, many times. But Roland, I never really had the pleasure. But I want to tell you, as a pilot myself, he was an inspiration. And people like Capt who knew him very well, and Tony McBeasy, were all heroes of mine. And they spoke highly about him. And so many of the things that I did in Guyana, many of the night flights we did to save people's lives, were always done being inspired and motivated by Roland. And I would say that because of what the things that he did and the inspiration he left, many people are alive today because of him. President Ali, when this matter was presented to him, he without hesitation at the Defense Board instructed the Chief of Staff to get it done. I don't think there was any question about the fact that Roland Dasliva was an authentic hero, a Guyanese hero. And I think I heard Peter said today that Roland did one single thing and made him a hero. And he did many, many things and he's not a hero. But Peter, you are a hero. You are a hero. Unfortunately, some people are recognized and some people are not. So the President said, "Dear Captain Dasliva, it is a privilege for me to inform you that on my order, a stamp will be commissioned in your honor for the exceptional contribution which you have made to both civilian and military aviation in Guyana. You are considered as a pioneer aviator, and your exploits in the field of aviation are well known, respected, and legendary. Your name is forever etched in the history of our country's defense of its territorial integrity. leading a small squadron of 2 Twin Otter aircraft transporting members of our defense force. You fearlessly landed on a partially constructed airstrip in the New River Triangle. This pivotal mission played a decisive role in repelling an attempted occupation of our territory. That territory still belongs to Ghana today because of Roland. As a tribute to your exceptional valor on this mission, our nation bestowed upon you the Capt Crown of Valor. My friends, this is the first time in the history of our country any single man has been honored with this national award, and he deserved it. The Cooperative Republic of Ghana salutes you for your service and heralds your achievements. Please accept on behalf of all Guyanese and on my personal behalf, gratitude and best wishes. The family, the children, his wife, his brothers, the grandchildren, his memory and the heritage and what he's leaving behind and what you're going to be proud for the rest of your life. Anytime you go to Guyana, his name is going to be etched in our history. And I want to say thank you, and thank you for the times when he had to be out there. I know when he went on that mission, he had to write the letter. He had to agree to write the letter and give it to the president, saying that if anything happened to him, what they will do, and so on. So he was really a remarkable Guyanese, was more than a pilot and an aviator. What I could see in this room is that he was an exceptional human being, a social human being. And every time I spoke about him to him, like this, he laughed and said he used to like bottles. I didn't understand his bottle story until I heard it from you. But Tony McNissy, who speaks very highly of it, told me about his bottle story. And so one day I want you to tell me more about his bottle story. So ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. And I want to just bring that message from the President of Ghana. Thank you.
Listen, that bottle story is a big deal. Okay, big deal. All right, I'd like the Brigadier to say a few words, please. Thank you, Ms. Kay.
Thank you, sir. I know in this room we have many persons in the aviation sector, and you would refer to our dear friend, Captain Roland Dasliva, as a captain. If you permit me, I'll refer him to his military rank as a major. It's the first rank of senior officership. And as a chief of staff, I'd want to recognize him as such. Mrs. Dasliva, the wife of our dear brother, the children, relatives and friends, Ghana National Security Advisor, Captain Gerry Gouveia, and those persons who I would have met just shortly when I came here, retired officers of the Ghana Defense Force. Thank you for your service, like that of Major Roland Dasliva. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, today, this morning, my attendance and that of Captain Gouveia, you would have already mentioned, was a result of an executive directive of His Excellency Dr. Irfan Ali, the President of the Cooperative Republic of Guyana and the Commander-in-Chief of our Armed Forces. We join you today bringing the condolences of our President and those of my servicemen and women of the Ghana Defense Force. Not only to mourn with you, but also to celebrate his life. As I do so, however, I'm aware that Major Dasliva's achievement would have been in the military, would have been long before I was even born. So I came here with learning from you and talking to you about his contribution. But nevertheless, I would have read about this great officer who would have served his nation exemplary. I have a heavy heart and a feeling of sadness knowing that I never once met with the Major. This is not how I intend to meet anyone with such importance and contribution to Guyana's development as a young nation and where we are today. And while I don't profess to have known Major Dasliva personally, for me, I am most honored to be associated with the institution that he once served. That's the Guyana Defense Force. A force which had only have become stronger and resolute because of persons like Major Dasliva. This institution, for which I have now have the command responsibility since April of this year, continues to grow on the foundation set by Major Dasliva, and I'll explain why. I'm sure in his own time, for most of you, he would have reflected on his service to the force and how significant an impact his voluntary involvement and sacrifice contributed to the integrity of Guyana's border. And you would have heard Captain Gouveia mention. I'm also supposing all in this room know of his direct participation in the two most significant military operations in the history of our country and defense force. And I refer to the Rupununi Uprising and the New River incursion. Captain Gerry Gouveia would have gone in details. I will not. But these are the two most important military operations in our history that saw our borders as the way it was when we gained independence in 1966. Importantly, for me and the Guyana Defense Force, it is noted that the conduct of these two operations remains a marvel to all past and serving military commanders, including myself. And much references continue to be made in our training with respect to operational planning, strategic innovation, and air and ground maneuver tactics. These characteristics have gained him the recognition and worthy of the Classic Crown of Valor, the highest national award for bravery and the only one issued thus far in the history of our country. For the Guyana Defense Force, Major Dasliva has surely left an indelible mark, and he shall be remembered for his bravery and service to the nation. In these formative years of a young nation, young Guyana, Major Dasliva did not only what was expected of him, but he went beyond the normal call of duty. And it gives me great honor to pay tribute on behalf of all the servicemen and women of our defense force. While I don't know or had not the opportunity to know Major Dasliva, I would like to remember him as one of our 6 people who has given much sacrifice and vehement service to his country, Guyana. He shall be remembered for his bravery and sacrifice. Major Dasliva may have worn the military uniform for a short while, but in his heart, he wore the rank of a true patriot. With the Commander-in-Chief and all other servicemen and women, we thank wholeheartedly Major Dasliva for his service in defense of our nation, Guyana, and mourn with you and celebrate his life today. Thank you.
Do you look the pastors here yet? Thank you very much, Brigadier, for your words. We're supposed to be starting our service in a few minutes, okay? So we're going to have a short interlude with the music, and I think the pastor, have you seen the pastor by any chance? He hasn't? All right, we'll just have a short interlude on the music. Okay, folks, you'll be back here in a minute.